to COASTER-net Uncut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of COASTER-net Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois, joined once again by my co-compatriot, one Danny Miller. How is it going tonight?
We're doing good, Andy. I mean, it's, the season is pretty much here for us. We're starting to get out to the parks. The parks are starting to open. The daylight is lasting longer and longer, which means that we're going to have, theme parks opening up very, very soon, some of which have already opened. Some of our new rides for 2018 have already opened. A few more are not very far behind, maybe within the next few weeks. So, it's an exciting time to be, a coaster enthusiast right now, and probably the most anticipated ride of the year, and probably one of the most anticipated rides in recent memory is opening up at Cedar Point in just a few weeks, Steele Vengeance. And, we've kind of done this the last couple years here where we've talked about, maybe Cedar Point's 5-year plan and what we think it might be or what we think it should be. And it's been a while since we revisited that. So now that we know what's happening in 2018, we have a chance to now go back and maybe reassess what we said, the last time we covered this, and maybe look forward to what the next 5 years might hold for good old Cedar Point.
Well, a few years ago, we kind of pioneered the theory of Cedar Point trying to get 20 coasters in 2020. And we laid out a whole 5-year plan that laid out how it could happen. And Danny, I'll be honest with you, 3 years removed from that first time we've talked about this, we were pretty much spot on so far. There's only one little thing that's kind of changed that we'll get into, but we said that they would have to do a water park expansion in those 5 years from 2015 to 2020. We got that. We said there have to be some sort of new roller coaster that we didn't know what it was, but it'd have to be maybe a mid-major roller coaster, and that was Valraven. We got that. The one spot where we kind of went astray was, when we first talked about this, it was in the middle of the whole Cedar Fair dark ride, craze, where
that kind of died off pretty quickly.
That kind of dropped off the face of the earth here. That, Canada's Wonderland got, Wonder Marna's Guardian, Knott's got Voyage to the Iron Reef, and then since then we've seen nothing. So we kind of speculated that maybe that's where another coaster would be added, but that was not the case. So as we sit right now, in March of 2018, we currently have 18 roller coasters. We have, because they are counting Pipe Scream too, that they've always counted Pipe Scream as a roller coaster, as has Kings Island now. Kings Island, in their most recent promos for their park, their commercials for the 2018 season, they are now saying that Surf Dog is a roller coaster. So this seems to be something that's moving across the entire Cedar Fair chain, that they're counting these types of rides as coasters. So we have 18. So to get to 2020, if we wanted 20 coasters, we still need 2 more somewhere. And I think both me and you both said that at some point, that 2020 has to be a roller coaster, right? 2020, if it's not a roller coaster, we'd all be kind of disappointed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially if we're going to hang on to our theory here that we're going to go for 20 in 2020. It's crazy because with Mean Streak having been closed for a year, and now with Steele Vengeance coming out, you've got 18 and 18. Then you could go, if you did another one for 2019, even if it was a smaller one, you could go 19 and 19, and then you go to 20 in 2020. So, is it possible that maybe they go small family, small, kiddie type coaster as part of some sort of expansion, and then they go for the bigger coaster in 2020, whether that be your, on the beach wood coaster that we've talked about, maybe with some sort of boardwalk type expansion. Maybe it is an Aquatrax, or do they maybe kind of, do we go somewhere in there? Is it something that maybe we haven't heard of it? Is it maybe a first of its kind? Do they expand upon the single rail type thing and maybe go T-Rex now that, we're seeing some of the Raptors show up and Cedar Point would want something with more capacity? Do they maybe go that route? I think there's some different options here, and we can discuss each of them.
Well, I think we have to go back to what Tony Clark posted on Twitter in 2014, that we've kind of looked at. Tony Clark in 2014 and 2015 posted these Cedar Point memo pads that has a list of things that he had to do, basically a to-do list. And a lot of people said, ha, 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 that's funny. But I think looking back now, looking at what these things say, a lot of it makes you raise an eyebrow and is like, well, was he just telling us what they were doing? Like, everyone dismissed it as, hey, this is nonsense. But now looking back, well, let's look at the first one from September 1st of 14. It said, number 1, call RMC. Well, done. That was obviously completed. 2, purchase an Aquatrax. That one's still out there. Yeah. 3, relocate Mantas. Well, they didn't relocate Mantas.
Not quite, but I would check that one off because that's what different people. So many people were saying that it would be relocated, so I would kind of check that one off.
And to be honest, they made it into Rougarou. They made it a far superior ride. I too would check that off. Number 4 is build dark ride. That's the one everyone's been talking about at this time. Everyone thought Cedar Point was going to get a dark ride. It hasn't come to pass yet. But maybe. I think at some point they need a dark ride, right?
You would think, even if it's something like a Plants vs. Zombies or like the Mass Effect where it's not a true dark ride, it's more of like a dark experience, if you will, for lack of a better term, whether it's, you build a building and you put something in it. Something like that, I think, would suffice.
And then you have go over 500 feet. Now, that's an interesting one because a lot of people were speculating that maybe the 2020 coaster might be a true record breaker that would go over 500 feet. But I'm going to hold this one off on the side, too, because I don't think that's going to factor into our 2020 coaster. I think that factors into a different thing Tony Clark said later on. So we're going to put that one on the shelf for right now and come back to it. Number 6 was Coaster Tunnel into Lake Erie.
Which they should have done with Lake Erie Monster that they decided not to do and made it Valraven instead. Shame on you, Cedar Point.
So maybe that one was supposed to be done and it just didn't come to pass. Maybe they changed their minds on it. So
it still should have been Lake Erie Monster.
Absolutely. And then number 7, Billboard Walk, which they're currently doing right now. So they're currently going to open up a boardwalk. Maybe not a boardwalk that everyone thought it was going to be, but a boardwalk nonetheless. So here you go. Everything on that list pretty much done. Now, he did offer us a different list come a few months later that, was on October 5th. And this might have been a 15 now. So this is not super close to that. And it's basically the same thing. Revisit that whole Aquatrax thing. That's the running joke. This time it's relocate Rougarou. So he's updating the Mantas thing and saying, hey, we did that. Build a monorail and parking garage, something that everyone's claimed that they were going to do. And maybe if they were going to build a 500-foot coaster, they might have to do that. So repaint Raptor, that was done. Lunch with RMC. I'm sure they had lunch with RMC at some point. Visit with RMC.
Now, hold on. Does the fact that RMC's on here twice suggest that maybe there's a second RMC at some point?
It could. It could.
Is that their wood coaster that are, everyone's been talking about GCI. Now that RMC's got their foot in the door, is it possible we see, an RMC wood coaster?
And it's very possible because the RMC wood coasters are a lot smaller and it could fit in the location of where the old, Dolphin Stadium was, the old Oceana Stadium. Yeah. So maybe that means there's 2 RMCs there. And then number 7 is repaint Top Fuel Dragster.
Which everyone likes to call it.
Which everyone likes to do it, and they did that as well. So here we have a number of things. And I think I think the first thing we need to settle is 2019. And I think we have to go to this rumor that Snake River Falls is being removed. Oh, it may be this year. This might be the final year for Snake River Falls. Was a heavy rumor going around at the end of last year amongst the park guests. And if they were to remove that, that would open up a nice little space for an Aquatrax coaster, which I think the park needs. They need to, since they removed Shoot the Rapids, they need a new water ride there.
Especially if they remove Snake River Falls. If you're going to remove Shoot the Rapids and Snake River Falls in the span of just a few years, you would want a new, more reliable, modern water ride to do so. I would personally love something, like an Atlantis adventure over there in South Korea. We see a lot of people talk about that, and very heavily themed. Now Cedar Point may not go that route, but it would be cool to see something similar to that, I think.
Yeah, and it doesn't. You have that entire splash pad where Shoot the Rapids was already. That's already built. You can probably repurpose that. They haven't torn it up. They've left it there for a reason. Now, the other half across is where they put, the old Sky Coaster. So they've already taken up the old station for Shoot the Rapids. That's why I'm saying you'd have to remove Shoot the Rapids. Now, some people say that removing Shoot the Rapids allows you the ability to put a wood coaster back there in Frontier Town. And they do keep talking about the revitalization of Frontier Town. So maybe that's the second route we go here, is maybe the, option B would to be remove Shoot the Rapids and build a new wood coaster on that plot of land.
Snake River Falls, you mean, right?
Yeah, Snake River Falls.
Okay.
So remove Snake River Falls and then build the wood coaster on half of where Shoot the Rapids was, the other half where Snake River Falls currently sits. So that's an option too. And if you could do either of those two options in 2019, you really could.
Yeah, I think so. Now, the big question here is, is Cedar Point just all in for these couple years and they're just going, balls to the wall here and they're going to do 3 big coasters, 3 years in a row? We've seen things like that done somewhat before. We've seen, parks, I think like Great Adventure did 2001, I think with Nitro, and then 2003, that was Superman. Cedar Point has done it where they did, they did Wicked Twister, and then the next year they did Top Thrill Dragster. But Wicked Twister, a smaller ride in terms of, how much land it takes up. So we've seen like Six Flags Great America put 2 rides in 1 year. What was it? It was a V2, and what was the other ride they put in? Deja Vu. Yeah. So those are 2, moderately expensive rides. But I mean, if you're looking at like a GCI, let's say you're looking at a GCI, you're probably looking like what, 8 to 12 million, depending on how big you want to go and how long you want to go. And then if you were to do something monstrous in 2020, let's 30 plus million for something like that. I mean, is that something that Cedar Point's going to do after just doing Steele Vengeance? I don't know.
Like we said years ago, Steele Vengeance, redoing Mean Streak into Steele Vengeance is not, it's an expenditure, but it's not to the level of putting in a brand new coaster. That you're probably talking, New Texas Giant was 10 million. So maybe you're talking in the 15 to 16 million range, maybe not even that. So that's kind of a small expenditure for the bang for your buck you're getting. That's why all the parks do the Iron Horse conversions. An Aquatrax would be another smaller ride. A GCI roller coaster would be another smaller expenditure, allowing you to make these small expenditures. If you're going to put in a flat ride, you're going to spend $8 million on a flat ride probably. So why not put in a smaller roller coaster and then save some of that capital for your big anniversary year? Now, I want to bring this up again. Tony Clark did say that it would be a 2-year celebration, the 150th season and the 150th anniversary. So there's going to be 2 years back to back where they're going to be celebrating this new thing. And like we said before, why not do back-to-back coasters? Celebrate the old with the new. Celebrate a wood coaster to harken back to Cedar Point's roots with the old Cedar Point Cyclone, and bring in the new steel coaster that could possibly top 500 feet. I don't know who's going to build it. Don't ask me. Don't ask me that question. I don't know where it's going to go. I do have some theories. One theory would be they just tore down Sandcastle Suites. And
this is your big overlying theory that you've been hanging on to for a while now here.
Yeah, so they just tore down Sandcastle Suites. And there is, now keep in mind that half of that land, mostly what used to be the old Breakwater Cafe and part of the Sandcastle parking lot is now being transformed into premium RV sites. That still leaves a good chunk of land back there.
Yeah.
So the question is, what could you do with that good chunk of land? And how
do you end up connecting it?
Well, I think the best way to do it is to take out the Cadillac cars in Frontier Town, that's right there in the middle between Maverick and Cedar Creek Mine Ride. You have this huge tract of land, which, by the way, they also closed down for Halloween weekends this year. So they closed it down to put in a small little haunt tent back there, which I found really interesting because that's a ride that they usually keep open. So it began, my wheels started turning, being like, well, maybe there's maintenance issues and they don't want to maintain the cars. They already have a Cadillac cars in the front of the park. They took out the Turnpike cars in favor of Valraven. So if you took out these Cadillac cars in the back of the park, you could use that as your station. You could, if you go on Google Maps, you can see a straight line going out in between, somewhere between where Slingshot is and where the new Steele Vengeance is. They also just purchased a whole bunch of off-site land. This was a kind of quiet story that they purchased a whole bunch of land inside Sandusky, right around the park, but not connected to the park. And a lot of people are speculating what they're going to do with it. They do have a whole maintenance building back there by Mean Streak / Steele Vengeance that they could knock down in favor of this new ride. They could take out some of the old RV spots, and you could draw a straight line out to where that new area right next to the pretzel loop on Magnum is. And that would be enough space. Like, you know how big Magnum is. Magnum, that lift hill takes up most of the space because it's so, what's the opposite of steep?
Well, yeah, it has a shallow ascent angle.
Yes. So there you go. So you could take that out, do a much steeper first hill, go do, Millennium Force, cable car style, and go up 500 feet and have it, shoot out there and then shoot back. And I think you could do a lot of good things. That's a long shot. I don't know if that's what they plan to do. That's what I was hoping they would do with the land from the old Challenge Park, but that didn't come to pass. They made that into parking. So maybe they'll take some of that parking away and make a coaster back there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So we're talking about that there. I think it's more likely, and tell me if you agree or disagree here. What if you use that area where the Cadillac cars are as a station for said wood coaster? Because wouldn't that fit the Frontier Town vibe more? I don't know. If you're gonna do wood coaster in Frontier Town, Snake River Falls' plot is probably better suited for that if you're going to go that route, because it's more compact. And if you were to go, say, GCI, which I think is very possible,
I think using the Cadillac cars plot, and I haven't looked at a Google map on it exactly. But
I'm going to bring it up while you're talking then.
I know there's a real tight area between Maverick, and there's a whole bunch of not restaurants, but shops, not shops, but storefronts where you get like food stands basically, that have been there forever. I don't know if you'd be able to get a lift hill out that without tearing those down. I'm not sure you want to tear those down. I'm not sure how they connect to the Cedar Point Town Hall, the museum that they have. To look at an overview of that, I haven't looked at that lately. I don't know. I think it would be more likely to shoot it out the other way, and having that as a steel station, because the problem is if you want to build a huge steel roller coaster, that breaks records. There's not a whole lot of areas to do that anymore in the park. There's very few areas. I think this is
it's a long stretch now that I look at it.
Yeah, this is the last shot I think they have at possibly breaking any records. And like you said, me and you have talked about this on the phone. You know, I said, well, maybe they'll just do something in the upper 400s. But King Dakar is already 456?
456, yeah. I mean, so, at
that point, you might as well go the extra, 44 feet and just break the 500 record, right?
Yeah.
So, I think this is their last shot. Now, we know Matt We Met has always been, hotel, hotel, hotel. So you wonder if they would take out some of these RV spots in favor of that. It would also possibly disrupt some of the cabins out there because this would be going, late into the night. It's going to be one of the more popular rides there. So it would disrupt some of the sleeping habits. But that's nothing new at Cedar Point. I've been going to Cedar Point since I was 10 years old. And, being woken up by roller coasters, having to sleep, in the old Bon Air section, you could hear Magnum going all night long. So that's something that they've done in the past. I've always thought it added ambiance to the park. It's something, how many times do you get to wake up and hear a roller coaster or go to sleep to the sounds of roller coasters? I've always thought it was cool.
There's still a lot of space out on that island, though, where Shoot the Rapids still used to go. I mean, you could still do something there, especially if you took out Snake River Falls put a station and like a new plaza there, between Skyhawk and, the road that goes back towards, the animal area. You could create a nice new plaza there and still keep maybe a little bit of water if you wanted to and have the coasters shoot over the train tracks out onto, Millennium Island or Adventure Island and do some twisted stuff and then come back and the Sky Coaster isn't in the way still.
No, there is plenty of land. People keep saying, oh, you need to take out Cedar Creek Mine Ride to do any of this.
No, you don't.
You could take it out.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to is the issue that I would think that they're either going to take out one of the two. It's either you lose Snake River Falls or you lose Cedar Creek Mine Ride.
Well, Mine Ride opens up more space, I think, but if you take out Snake River Falls and then combine it with the empty Shoot the Rapids area that's on Adventure Island, you still have plenty of room.
Yeah, there's tons of space there. I don't think there's tons of space there for a major steel coaster.
No.
I think there's tons of space there for a medium-sized wood coaster. Maybe not so much a Gold Striker, because Gold Striker, I feel, takes up a lot of space. But maybe something a lot simpler, like a Prowler style, Mystic Timber style. And you could still make it a twister.
I mean, I think you could do something along, in the same vein as like a Thunderhead, because Thunderhead is in a pretty compact space. So you could do something similar to a Thunderhead that might have a little bit of an out and back style, Prowler style in it. I mean, you could do a 95, 100, 105 foot wood coaster and still have it do plenty of fun stuff.
And I think the Aquatrax fits in there no problem at all. Like an Aquatrax isn't even going to use. You could probably put something else out there with an Aquatrax, like an Aquatrax.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how big you want to go with something like that.
Yeah, and these are just theories out there that I think are interesting. I think knowing what we know now, I think a wood coaster has to happen. A wood coaster at some point has to happen because they only have Blue Streak left. I think over by the marina would be the best place, or not by the marina, by the Oceana Stadium would be the best place. That they've said that they are not doing anything with that space this year at all. So it's for future expansion. So a lot of people are like, oh, they'll just build a new plaza, to the boardwalk. That ain't happening. This is going to be empty for right now. So to me, it sends up red flags. Hey, they're doing something over there that might be pretty big. And I think over by Shoot the Rapids, that area has to be used for something too. Some people have speculated once Dinosaurs Alive goes away, you could open up a whole new midway. I've seen plans of someone drew up some plans where they would move Kitty Kingdom in the front of the park to that island and expand Camp Snoopy a little bit, where you would go over the water,
Okay.
Onto the island. I don't know if that's likely, adding a midway onto the island, because you're just going to get flat rides and kiddie rides, and I think you have a ton of that already. And opening up that space in the front of the park, you're still landlocked up there to do anything major.
Yeah, I mean the stadium coming out helps, but I mean there's still I mean, comparatively speaking, there's way more room in these other areas of the park that we talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cadillac Cars area back in Frontier Town still takes up more room than that stadium.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to put it in perspective as to how much.
But not only that stadium, but that whole midway is so wide and so expansive that's where, you have that whole Wicked Twister area that they've taken out. You'd have to get rid of Tiki Twirl, which I've heard had some maintenance issues from some people. So seeing Tiki Twirl leave wouldn't surprise me. You take that out. Do you relocate Wicked Twister somewhere else that screws up the 20 in 2020? Do you leave it there and build a wood coaster around it? I don't know how far on the beach you can go with a wood coaster, because the waves and the tide during certain parts of the season does get kind of high. I've seen it go all the way up to the sidewalk by the hotel.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could have footers that could be easily washed away out there on, and you don't want water corrupting, the wood structure. So I don't know how far out on the beach you can go. But I think that's still a perfect spot for a wood coaster on the beach. The way I'm envisioning that is you would have some sort of turnaround over where the stadium used to be.
It would be more of like a Coney Island Cyclone type layout.
Yeah. Where it'd have to be longer. It'd have to be a twister layout. It'd have to be longer than it is, wide.
Honestly, it would probably have to look a lot like Goliath at Six Flags Great America. It would probably have to be a very oval, rectangular footprint.
Yeah, it could definitely be that as well. So, and then moving forward, so this takes us into possibly 2019, possibly 2020, possibly 2021. If you go Aquatrax, wood coaster, steel coaster, and then from that point, I don't foresee Cedar Point doing a whole lot of expansion after 2021. Maybe that's
Not
when
immediately.
maybe that's when you finally get the dark ride. Cedar Point always adds something. Maybe that's when you get the dark ride, something that's more family based. Because one of the big knocks on the park currently is that there's not a whole lot for the entire family to do. And I think eventually that's going to have to be addressed again. They've been trying their best to make it, with the water park, adding stuff there, but taking out, paddle wheel excursions, taking out things like Disaster Transport and Wildcat. Those are kind of more of like family roller coasters. So I think at some point you have to put in something, and maybe the Aquatrax fits that bill. More of a family.
Yeah, depending on what you do with it, yeah.
Make it a little less thrilling, a little more, family based, where, you could do Thunder Canyon, then go on this Aquatrax, go back and forth between the water rides and make it a little bit more fun. Kind of what Shoot the Rapids was supposed to be.
Well, yeah.
So any other thoughts here on what's going on with the Cedar Point plan?
I really think I'm starting to wonder. See, I think it's very unlikely that we go after Steele Vengeance, we go 2 big coasters the next 2 years. I think it's more likely that we see something along the lines of what we talked about, where 2019 is a quiet year, because they're celebrating is it 2019 and 2020 or 2020 and 2021?
Well, it's when the 150th.
Because 1870 is when it opened. So technically your 150th season and 150th anniversary would be 2019 and 2020, right?
Yeah. So
it would maybe they're just doing 3 big years then. I don't know. I like your idea. I really like your idea of doing a wood coaster in 2019 and then coming back with a giant steel coaster, or, a brand new first of its kind steel coaster. I'll throw this out there for 2020. What if they go back to something you and I talked about back in the Steele Vengeance, speculation here. What if they do something like a tilt coaster? Something like, even though it may not be a first of its kind in the world, that to me would be something that would make a splash. Because, yeah, one exists, but nobody really cares. Very few people have gone over to ride that ride over in, Taiwan, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think if they did something like a tilt coaster, or I'm not saying that specifically, but if they did something like that, or having been over to the UK, if they did something like a Smiler to get the inversion record back, brought it back to 15 or 16 inversions. If they do a wood coaster like a GCI that's maybe more, I don't want to say a family attraction, because I think GCIs in general are more thrilling than a family attraction. I think a Fire Chaser Express type of ride is your true family attraction, but you can do a roller coaster like a GCI that has a 48-inch height requirement, and then maybe you go to something like a Smiler where you have some super duper ultra insane roller coaster, and you could do that on a pretty compact plot of land. You don't need a big plot of land to do that many inversions, as Alton Towers has shown us. So, Gerstlauer is a company that is doing hang time out at Knott's Berry Farm. So, and we talked about the renewed relationship out there. First time we've seen a coaster there in a long, long time. A Gerstlauer coaster to Cedar Fair Park. So if hang time is a success, or, maybe is this part of a package where, hey, this wouldn't be the first time we've seen Knott's Berry Farm get a test ride for Cedar Point, because Accelerator 2002, that was the test for Top Thrill Dragster. So is Knott's Berry Farm getting hang time as Gerstlauer's way of saying, hey, here's what we can do. We're going to do something even bigger and better that just shatters everything at Cedar Point a few years later.
And I'll take you one step further. They also did Gemini, that Midway got that whole redo with all the lights and stuff. They first did that out at Knott's Berry Farm too, with the lights and the lighting package, and redoing that Midway, and made it into a boardwalk. So we've seen Knott's transfer over to Cedar Point quite a few times, especially with ways, styles of doing things. So maybe a Gerstlauer in 2019 or 2020 isn't that far off. It could also be just a simply family coaster in 2019, something smaller. That I said that the park has been criticized for not having that step-up coaster where it's like you ride Junior Gemini, you ride Woodstock, you ride Cedar Creek Mine Ride. What do you ride after that?
Yeah, what's next? I mean,
it's like Magnum.
it's like what, Blue Streak or Iron Dragon maybe? I guess those are the two best ones that are like kind of middle of the road rides, right? Iron Dragon.
And then it's Magnum.
But in a park with 18 coasters, you probably got to have at least one more in there.
Some people have speculated maybe, some sort of B&M family coaster, or, some people are saying B&M family invert. They already got Raptor. You don't need to, improve on the best.
Yeah, Raptor is a family invert, so. Walked into that one, didn't you?
I did. I did walk into that one.
You walked right into it, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, man, yeah.
You're going to have your pitchfork coming at me soon.
So I think it's going to be a really exciting time. And I know all the Cedar Point haters are going to be flaming us, nonstop, saying Cedar Point has enough investment. They don't need this. But hey, it's their 150th anniversary. I think
they'll do something, and we've already heard they've already said they're going to do it big.
This has to be big. Now, maybe not 2 coasters big, maybe not 3 coasters in 3 years big, but I'm still sticking to we're not off the track on 20 coasters in 2020. We're right there. We are where we thought we were going to be. We said it was going to be tough to do, but here we are, and all they need is to add one little coaster, in 2019. And then something big in 2020, and we're there. We nailed it on the head.
Well, and Rob Decker said back in 2013 when we talked to him at Gatekeeper Media Day for the From Dreams to Screams documentary, he said we've got some things in the works. Some could be very quite hard to do. given that the park is so well developed. That was his exact quote. And everything we're talking about here is a challenge because the park is so well developed. So I don't think we're saying anything ridiculous. To say that everything we're talking about here tonight is a shoo-in and it's definitely going to happen, I don't think we're going to go that far. But I think anything that we talked about is possible. For sure.
I think it's a better than 50-50 shot at this point.
And as long as it aligns with what we said many years ago, we're going to stick to it until, we've been proven wrong, much like we did with the Cedar Fair coasters, until we absolutely knew that Worlds of Fun was not getting a coaster in 2018. We were going to stick to it because we thought that we had something there, and we were wrong on that, but we were right on everything else. So we might be wrong on something here, but we're probably hopefully we'll be right on more than we're wrong.
And even if they don't get a coaster in 2019,
Timberwolf.
Even if we don't get a coaster in 2019, there's still the opportunity that they build 2 coasters in 1 year in 2020. So there's still that.
There is
that last, like you talked about, the dueling steel wood hybrid. Doing something like that.
Yeah.
Like there's options there still.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options, and now that I brought up Timberwolf, that reminds me, we were right about Worlds of Fun. We were talking about this. We were like, they were hinting at Worlds of Fun getting. You know what? I think they heard that we thought Worlds of Fun was getting a coaster, and then they decided that they were like, you know what? These guys were so good. We're gonna do something to a coaster so that they can be right.
Yeah, let's do it anyway. So the last thing I want to talk about here, and it pains me to talk about.
So if you're listening, Cedar Point, do what we're saying. So we can listen.
Absolutely. They want to make us right, not build a great park or anything. So,
right, yes.
So actually, Danny, the reason why we chose this episode this evening is because we have a brand new Patreon. That you've probably have heard of this on other channels and other artists out there. And our Patreons actually selected this topic for this evening. We gave them a choice of about 4 or 5 different topics, and they selected this one. Now, Danny, let me first say that I don't like asking for money. Both me and you both struggled over this decision many hours and decided ultimately, hey,
a lot of sleepless nights on the phone talking about what we wanted to do with this.
Yeah, like we don't like taking other people's hard-earned money and asking and begging for money all the time. We have a lot of different outlets to support the site. We do have T-shirts for sale. We have the coaster art prints for sale that are still on sale right now if you like to buy those. But we thought that there are a group of people that came to us and said, we want to support the site, and we don't want you to have to give us extra stuff. We don't want you, just to send us a T-shirt and to make a few bucks off of it. Because most of the stuff we sell, I can tell you the posters that we sell, we are only making a couple of dollars off of. We're not getting rich.
We're not buying tickets to parks. We're not buying airplane tickets. We're not buying platinum passes with our profits here. What we're doing kind of here is these are stuff that we enjoy doing, and these are things that we enjoy. Having a little bit of a creative mind, and we want to do something different. Everybody. There's lots of podcasts out there. There's lots of video podcasts. There's lots of YouTube channels. We have always said that we wanted to do something that made us a little bit different. And if that's doing these edited art prints, if that's doing, some sort of calendar, which we've done in the past, and, that time has kind of come and gone to the point where the calendars aren't, there's not enough interest in those anymore. So we want to keep doing new and different things.
So and like you said, we're not making a ton of money off of this. And we run COASTER-net.com. That does cost money. It does cost money every month to keep that running. And I feel like, Danny, both me and you have not been here since the beginning of COASTER-net. That one Devin Olson started COASTER-net back in 1998. It is one of the oldest roller coaster websites anywhere on the internet. We predate things like Coaster Crew. We predate things like TPR. Rob Alvey used to be on the COASTER-net forums before he, started TPR. He actually got his start on, COASTER-net. So you can, hate us or love us for that, I guess.
Clint Novak got his start on COASTER-net. They were over here for a very short time at one point.
So I feel a need to, because we could easily say, ditch the website, ditch all the information that has been collected for well over, this is now, Danny, this is our 20th anniversary.
How about that?
That just dawned on me right now that we are 20. We're going to
be 20. Buy 20 roller coasters.
We're going to be 20 years old in 2018 in August this year. So I do feel a responsibility to keep the site running, and that does cost money. And also, we came to Patreon. People asked us, we want to contribute somehow. And this is what we're going to do. So we have 2 tiers right now. We have a $1 tier and a $5 tier. $1 tier basically means that you get to vote on future Uncut show topics. Yeah. I think our goal has always been to do at least one Uncut each month. We used to do a lot more, but now we have so many other shows like the Top 3 and the COASTER-net updates.
Yeah, and that comes out of the feedback from you folks. A lot of people said that they didn't like sitting through an hour and a half full-length COASTER-net Uncut every week. So the feedback to that was, well, we would prefer some 5 or 10 minute, news story shows where we hit on smaller topics. And that's what we did. And the response to them has been very good. So because the Uncut is becoming a bit more special as you don't get it every week, that $1 tier will give you the opportunity to vote on what topic you would like us to cover, which is how we did it tonight. You're not missing out on the show. You don't only get to see it if you go to Patreon. We're not going to keep you from getting the shows and the content that we do here if you don't want to donate money. That's not the point here. We're not making you pay for content. It's a pay if you would like to, or pay what you wish to, in order to just get a little bit of extra perks. And at the $1 level, you get to vote in a poll that picks what the COASTER-net Uncut topics are.
Now, at the $5 level, we're going to give you a little bit more. That we have a new thing called Discord, where you can go in there and have voice chats with other coaster enthusiasts. There's somewhat of a emerging community being grown there right now. We just started it, and some people, it keeps on growing every day. You can also, in there'll be exclusive areas that you can have voice chats, like I said, with people, and also you can listen to the Uncut shows is in audio form, because a lot of people have said, well, I'd like to listen to Uncut or listen to everything you do, but I don't want to download the data for the video on my phone. Yeah. Well, this system allows you to listen to just audio through YouTube, and that's for anything. You can watch any video on YouTube and listen to just the audio. I know a lot of people use it for music and stuff. So that's another perk. And then the final thing that we're offering at the $5 level is
hybrid fork.
Not the hybrid fork. Is we are going to do an Ask Danny and Anything show. But also, we're going to do some specialized shows as well. So the Ask Danny and Andy Anything show, we did it a few times to moderate success way back when we first started. Yeah. We're going to do off-topic shows and post them for the Patreons only. I think we're also going to do, this is a big one, Danny, and this is one I didn't think we would ever do again.
I'm scared as to what you're going to say here.
I did not think we would ever come to this point where this topic would have to be revisited. We said it was the final battle, but I think we need to do round 2. I think we need to do the Manta Raptor Strikes Back.
Manta versus Raptor round 2, the Royal Rumble.
The Royal Rumble of Manta and Raptor. We're going to have a very special guest host for that one too. I don't know who it is yet. I'm still thinking of it. But we're going to feel...
You're going down. You're going down.
Last time we had the atrocious Brian Bass, who said he was impartial, but doesn't obviously understand what impartial means. So he will not be...
We're looking at you, Brian Bass.
Yeah, he will... If I have anything to do with it, he will not be moderating. We're going to find someone more intelligent to moderate this which shouldn't be hard to do. No,
oh my God.
We love Brian Bass. We love Brian Bass.
That's fantastic.
He's one of our biggest supporters, though I will never see him on the Patreon, that's for sure.
Yeah, seriously, that's for sure.
Because getting nickels out of his pockets, like, oh man, trying to break into.
Well, I mean, he has enough trouble getting nickels himself, let alone giving them out to other folks. So, but no, I mean, this is something. This is a if you want to. This isn't. You're not missing out on anything here,
except Raptor Manta 2.
Well, yes, yes, but I mean, you're not missing out on any of the updates. You're not missing out on any of the uncuts. And we've talked about, if people come back and say, hey, I want to give more than $5 or whatever, we've got ideas, and we're not gonna put those higher level tiers out there right now because that's not something that we want to do right now. We don't want to be getting we don't want hundreds and hundreds of dollars here because that's not what this is about here. This is just a little way of you being able to support us in a very small way if you want to, and we'll give you a little bit of something for it.
And if there is enough, there are plans to find ways to help you guys out as well. So
sure.
So if this does get big, which I don't know if it will. I don't know if you guys want it.
Maybe we'll get 5 people and the rest of the people will be like, you guys suck. You're asking for money. I hate you guys. Okay, fine.
That's fine. That's the way it goes. I play mobile games and people laugh at me because I spend, $5 to $10 a month on mobile games. And I feel that I'm supporting the creator. I'm supporting them to make a better game. And that's why I do it. Yeah, I get something little out of it, I get a different costume for my Wolverine character, on my Marvel Future Fight game, but it's something I do to support the game, to make sure that it stays around.
I mean, we talk about that with the theme parks too. I mean, people always complain about, ticket prices going up. But you know what? The good thing about ticket prices going up is that means they make more money and we get cool shit. So maybe Cedar Point raising their ticket prices this year, maybe they got to pay for those 2 big roller coasters these next few years somehow. So, don't take that at face value.
So the link to our Patreon is very simple, patreon.com/COASTER-net. I'll put it down in the description down there as well if you want to, like I said, if you want to check it out, check it out. If not, just ignore the last 10 minutes of your life.
Yeah, pretty much.
So as always, Danny Miller, that's going to wrap us up here tonight. I'm, of course, Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
As always, right on, right Warriors.
See you next time, guys.